Thursday night football in Buffalo, Miami, 0-2. Buffalo, how does it all go down? Welcome to Bills Postgame, Thursday night football edition. Fish versus the Buffalo. Who gets squashed? Who gets eaten? And more importantly, whose record improves and whose record goes down? Let's get started. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Bills Postgame. Welcome in, Dolphins fans. Welcome in, Bills fans. First and foremost, before we get down to anything, including our head coaches, quarterback matchup, and everything else that we might have gone on through in before they kick off the pregame show, exclusively only on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. I want to welcome in everyone. It is week number 3 on Bills postgame. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 31-21 in about as close a game as you could see, depending on who you ask. My name is Scott. I am the host of the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Bills Mafia, happy Victory Friday to you. Once again, in case you missed it, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 31-21 on Thursday Night Football in Buffalo, New York, in Western New York. With that win, they improved Sean McDermott's record against the Miami Dolphins to 9-0 at home. Congratulations to Sean McDermott, becoming 9-0 against Miami at home. Also, some news regarding that. Josh Allen hit another milestone, 200 career passing touchdowns. Jackson Hawes, speaking of milestones, scored his first career NFL touchdown. Congratulations to the kid, Jackson Hawes, on his first career NFL touchdown. Buffalo has won almost every matchup against Miami since Sean McDermott took over as head coach. Again, I mentioned Sean McDermott is 9-0 against Miami. The Buffalo Bills for the regular season of conversation, meanwhile, are 3-0. Miami, the season has not been kind to them. Let me just address that right off the jump. The season has not been kind to Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins this year, but they had a chance to beat Buffalo and go 2-1 in last night's game at 31-21, the final once again, and came up short. Last week, when the Dolphins played the Patriots, they also had a shot at winning that game, but came up short. Against the Colts, they just got ran out of the building at Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm just going to say it right now. They just got ran out of the building at Lucas Oil Stadium. For those who remember, that was a 33-8 loss for Miami. A little bit closer in the New England game at 33-27, but a 10-point loss to Buffalo. I mean, this game went back and forth all night long. Buffalo threw a punch. Miami threw a punch. All right. So with that out of the way, Mike McDaniel and Sean McDermott meeting once again. They will meet one more time this season later in the year after the Buffalo Bills bye week, which is in a few weeks from now. Yes, they will not play in week 7. They will play week 4, which is next week against the Saints. Sunday Night Football, week 5 against the Patriots. And then they got the Falcons on Monday Night Football. But we'll talk about that more later. All right, let's go ahead and remind you before we take a quick commercial break of the Sunday lineup. a couple of games that stand out from the Sunday lineup. We will get into this ball game. We will get in there. But before we do, want to quickly remind you of the games left to play in week number 3, including the primetime games, which is where we are going to start. Sunday Night Football features the 0-2 Chiefs against the 0-2 Giants. Game time is at 8:20 p.m. Eastern, 7:20 p.m. Central. Patrick Mahomes against the G-Men Giants. The Lions and the Ravens duking it out on Monday Night Football. Both teams are 1-1. By the end of the night, one of them will be 1-2. The other will be 2-1. Lamar Jackson duking it out against the Lions. Remember, the Bills saw Lamar in week number 1, which was 2 weeks ago. That was as many people are saying, by far the game of the year. Is it the game of the year for Buffalo? It very well was, but the Bills' defense in that game was not great. They weren't great in Miami's game either, but we'll talk about that in a second. All right, moving on. The afternoon slate features in the late slate of the afternoon, the Denver Broncos in LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers have won 2 games so far this season. Denver has lost a game and also won a game. The New Orleans Saints, who the Bills will face next week, take on the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks, looking for their first win of the regular season. That is at the 4:05 p.m. slate. In the 4:25 p.m. window, we have the Dallas Cowboys also looking for their second win of the season against the 0-2 Chicago Bears, looking for their first win of the season. And this is going to be an interesting fight between the Cardinals and the 49ers. 2-0 Niners against 2-0 Cardinals. That's going to be a good one. Just a few of the 1 o'clock games on Sunday that are standing out to me. The Dog Pound Cleveland Browns looking for their first win of the regular season, taking on the 2-0 Green Bay Packers at 1 p.m. Game time at 1 p.m. Also looking ahead to, and just to reiterate from the last post-game show we did with Buffalo, Stephon Diggs is actually not a Houston Texans anymore. He's not a Texan anymore. He's actually a Patriot. He and the Patriots will go head-to-head with the Steelers this Sunday. Both teams looking for their second win of the season. One of those teams will have their second loss of the season. The other will get their second win of the season. Houston Texans, speaking of, will take on the 1-1 Jaguars as they look for their first win of the season. They are 0-2. The Jaguars are 1-1. And the Minnesota Vikings will take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati looking for their third win of the season. Minnesota looking for its second win of the season. Minnesota has lost a game and won a game. Cincinnati has won 2 games already this season. All right, that's just a couple of those games coming up on Sunday, and we also took care of the primetime games Sunday night and Monday night. No doubleheader this week for Monday Night Football. Doubleheader next week, which will feature the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets, as well as the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals. Sunday Night Football next week features the Cowboys and the Packers, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's keep it to this week, which is week number 3. We're going to take a break. When we come back, let's jump into how the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins played out a primetime AFC East Division showdown between the two squads. And a reminder, as we take the break, we will hear from the locker room in Buffalo, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, and the gang. We will hear from them before we get to the game totals of this game, recap, summary, before we hear from the Bills locker room. Victory speech. All that's still to come. Plus, we'll set up next week for the Dolphins, next week for the Bills. We did tease it earlier, but all of that's still to come. Bills Postgame continues on Sports for Beginners and streaming on the Ice and Behind the Benches right after this.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hey everyone, it's your host of Penguins Postgame here, Scott McGregor. Here to let you know that Penguins postgame content will return to Sports for Beginners as well as on the ice and behind the benches, but it will be a after show on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, dropping the week after the games are being played. And you can see the two teams behind me, the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. We may drop this on the first day after the game, but be sure to catch me live and only on Sports for Beginners. Maybe it won't be live, but definitely it will be on Sports for Beginners for Penguins Weekly Recap. Recapping all games with extra thoughts from the Penguins hockey games this season for the 2025-2026 season. It's the Rangers and the Pens kicking off the 2025-26 NFL season in the return of Penguins postgame, streaming on both Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches this fall, part of both networks, part of both podcast feeds, I should say. I'll catch you on the flip side, Pens Nation. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Divisional opponent, obviously. Short week for both of these teams. Got some good guys up front, and then, they got some experience in the back end. The Dolphins are 0-2. They looked a lot more competitive last week against the Patriots than they did.
For a Thursday game, I'm feeling probably the best I have, maybe ever.
Joey Bosa forces another fumble.
Something special is indeed happening right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Bills postgame be victory Friday to you, Bills Mafia. The Buffalo Bills beating the Miami Dolphins in round one of the 2025/2026 season, because the 2025 season for the NFL kicks into overdrive as it has already when we inch closer to 2026 in a few months' time. It is September the 19th, Friday, September the 19th, 2025, and it is week 3 in Bills postgame. I want to remind you that a Dolphins version of the show is coming up on Dolphins postgame, following us here on Sports for Beginners, and our show will follow it on the ice and behind the benches. One thing that will stay the same besides how it is described in each show is when the victory speech comes out. Speaking of which, before we can get there, I want to quickly touch on, before we go to the first half highlights, as I describe in my notes, let's talk about the inactive players that we mentioned over the course of before they kick off. Before the game began, they were, for the Buffalo Bills, Curtis Samuel, Jordan Hancock, Jamarcus Ingram, Matt Milano, Ed Oliver, Chase L., and Landon Jackson. Positions by the team: defensive end for Landon Jackson, offensive tackle for Chase L., wide receiver for Curtis Samuel, linebacker for Matt Milano, defensive tackle for Ed Oliver, cornerback for Jamarcus Ingram, defensive back for Jordan Hancock. And with that said, let's move over to the Miami inactives. The Miami inactives were tight end Darren Waller, cornerback Storm Duck, safety IM, cornerback Julius Brent, wide receiver Taj Washington, and defensive tackle Zeke Biggers. So here we go. It's time to get down to the ball game. Reminder of what the final score was. Buffalo 30-21. Dolphins get the game's first ball. They get the ball in the first half, but Buffalo won the toss and deferred. So that's why Miami would wind up with the ball first. In the first quarter, as we start off our first half scoring summary, it would be Ollie Gordon driving up the middle for a 2-yard touchdown, and the extra point attempt by Riley Patterson was good. So the Dolphins score early for the first time this season. 2 weeks into the season, now 3 weeks into the season, Miami has scored first. But the league reigning MVP from last season, Josh Allen, is able to find Dalton Kincaid for a 20-yard touchdown. Extra point by Matt Prater is up and good. We're in a 7, so Miami strikes first, and Buffalo quickly answers. Score after 1 quarter of play: Dolphins 7, Bills 7. We're in a 7-7 tie. Heading to the second quarter. Second quarter of play, first team to score would be Buffalo, as Josh Allen goes to the short left side for Jackson Hawes for the 5-yard touchdown. Extra point by Matt Prater is good, and Buffalo has the first lead of the night. Their first lead of the night, I should say. It's 14-7 Buffalo. 14-7 Buffalo. But Tua strikes back quickly. He finds the Penguin, Jalen Waddle, for a 3-yard touchdown. Extra point by Riley Patterson, good. And wouldn't you know it, just like the first quarter, we are tied. Again, it is 7-7 after 1 quarter. Now it's 14-14. Bills 14. Dolphins 14. That would ultimately end up being the score at the half. Because Buffalo deferred, they would possession in the second half, I should say, of play. That brings us now to our second half scoring moments. It's a 14-14 game at the half. When we return to Bills postgame, actually, you know what? Let's keep it going here, third and fourth quarter. We will take a break after that and go into the game stats and our victory speech from Sean McDermott and company in that next break. Right after that next break, I should say. So here we go. It's time for our second half scoring. Reminder, at the half, it was 14-14. Miami and Buffalo tied at 14 apiece. Bills received the second half kickoff because they deferred even though they won the toss against Miami. Third quarter of play, James Cook, a monster night, I should say, against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and then a monster day against Justin Fields and the New York Jets last week. Up the middle for a 2-yard touchdown, 2-yard score. Extra point by Matt Prater, up and good. It's 21-14 Buffalo. Buffalo back in front by 7. At the end of 3 quarters of play, Buffalo is in front by 7 points. 1-14 Buffalo. Heading to the final quarter of play. He broke off his big play drought last week. Has a big play against Buffalo this week. Tua Tagovailoa, short right to the Roadrunner, the Cheetah. Maybe for a 5-yard, touchdown. Extra point by Riley Patterson is up and good. Just like that. It is 20-21, and Buffalo is back in a tie. However, before that, there was a missed field goal that led to the 14-14 tie. Earlier in the first half, Matt Prater had a 39-yard field goal that he missed, And if he had made that 39-yard field goal, we would not be looking at a 14-14 tie at half. Also, Buffalo fumbled at the end of the first half, but it was aborted with 2 ticks on the clock. You could say whatever you want about that play. Anyway, back to the second half. So Tua found the Roadrunner, the cheetah, Tyreek Hill, for a 5-yard touchdown to tie the game back up at 21 apiece. And that's early fourth quarter. After 3 quarters of play was Bills 21, Dolphins 14. Later in the fourth, Josh finds Shakir for the 15-yard touchdown. Matt Prater, extra point, up and good. It's 28-21 Buffalo. Buffalo 28-21. Buffalo back ahead by 7 after the Josh Allen short pass to Kale Shakir, 15-yard touchdown pass from Allen to Shakir, and then Buffalo gets the ball back after, my goodness me, another interception thrown by Tua Tagovailoa against Buffalo. And of course, he's already had a couple of interceptions thrown in the past 2 weeks leading up to this week that I know of. With that said, his pass was intended for the Penguin, Jalen Waddle, intercepted by Terrell Bernard of Buffalo, which led to the drive later for Buffalo, where they rack off a huge gain on 2nd down and 16. Josh to Elijah Moore for 30 yards. James Cook goes up the middle. Sorry, he goes to the left. Josh Allen, using his legs on 3rd and 7, gets 2 yards. Jalen Phillips on the tackle, and that set up a 27 seconds 4th and 5, which they gave to Matt Prater. He missed one from 39 yards earlier in the game, which would have sparked a different halftime score than what it was. He's not missing from 48 yards. Kick is up and through. At this point, Buffalo is up 30-21, and then it would be a 13-yard gain on a Tua pass to T. Connor, who ran out of bounds. Then Tua trying to go to the Roadrunner on 1st and 10 after that first down 13-yard gain to start their final drive of the game and of the quarter. Malik Washington given the ball on 2nd down and 10. Taking us to the end of the game, he goes to the right end of Buffalo's 38-yard line for a 14-yard gain. Taron Johnson was injured in the game, but he did return, and he was in on the coverage to get Malik Washington stopped on 2nd down and 10. And there you have it. Your totals are coming up here on Bills Postgame in just a moment. Bills win it 31-21. That is a 10-point victory for the Buffalo Bills. And last week, Buffalo beat the New York Jets 30-10. So they beat the Jets by 20. Just double check my math here for a second. 30-10 was the final score of last week's win for Buffalo. Yes, that is correct. They did win by 20. So this week, rather last night, they beat the Dolphins by 10. They beat the Jets by 20 and edged Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens for that first win of the season, winning by a point and a game-winning field goal by the man who we mentioned in this game, missed a 39-yard field goal and then followed it up with a game-sealing field goal from 48 yards to win Buffalo the game 31-24. 31-21, excuse me, was our final at Highmark Stadium. Continued winning streak of being undefeated at home. They, I believe, are now 10-0 at home. But let's keep it to where the current record of the season is at. They were 2-0 going into this game, Buffalo. Miami, 0-2 going into this game. Miami is now 0-3. going into their game against the Jets on Monday Night Football. And going into the game against the Saints, Buffalo is 3-0, looking to go 4-0. We'll talk about that coming up in a couple of short moments. But first, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Sean McDermott and the crew talking post-game after the victory. Yet another big dub for the Buffalo Bills. And we'll hear from Sean and the crew in the Bills locker room with the victory speech up next. Game balls of the game coming up also in this segment, as well as our game totals, which will follow right before the victory speech. Link will be provided in the description of the episode so that if you want to hear it for yourself again, or use the link to find press conferences for Team Bills, if you're a Bills fan, you can do so. And as we take the break, I want to remind you that in our descriptions of our Bills postgame episodes, we will remind you about the Shout Insider text group. Find out more about what that is after the break. Stay with us.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
All right, folks, welcome back to Bills Postgame. My name is Scott. I'm the host of Weekly in Sports, the podcast, as well as Sports for Beginners. And of course, this show, as well as our pregame show that we do during primetime games before they kick off for the Buffalo Bills. I also host a couple of hockey shows, at least one hockey show to the exact, on the Ice and Behind the Benches. And of course, right here on Sports for Beginners. I fill in from time to time with Blue Jays game recap, and I also host Blue Jays weekly recap. It is time to get down to the totals. Let's do it. I'm just gonna make sure that our screen is up and ready to go for the totals here. Reminder though, with NFL Game Pass, you can watch every game, including those that may be only available on Prime Video. So check it out today and download the NFL app wherever you can find it, in any app store, Google Play Store, or anywhere. With that said, I think we have it set up here. Let's jump down. Yep, there we go. Everything's here. We'll take a look at the standings momentarily, but a reminder that the previous matchup and last matchup the Bills had was back in November of 2024, November of last year. The Bills winning that game 30-27. In this game, they win 30-21. And you can also see our standings there. You can see Buffalo sitting pretty at 3-0. New England and the Jets having yet to play. The Jets right now are in last place in the AFC East at 0-2. The Dolphins are 0-3. They are third place. And the Patriots are 1-1. They are in second place right now. Buffalo is the sole 3-0 team in the East. All right, let's get to our stats for the game. First of all, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go to our stat and I guess go by team. So let's start with Miami, and I also have the stats here on CBS Sports for all of the team stats, including how long each team had possession of the ball. Miami had it for 28 minutes and 13 seconds. Buffalo 31 minutes and 47 seconds. The Dolphins had 19 first downs, Buffalo with 23. The Dolphins had 11 passing plays, Bills with 12 passing plays, 8 plays for both teams rushing, 8 first downs rushing for both sides, only one more for Buffalo than Miami. Passing, 12 for Buffalo first downs from the air, and in the air for Miami, they finished with 11 first down passing, 3 automatic first down penalties for Buffalo. Slightly better in the third down category for Miami at 10 out of 15. Miami also went for it once on fourth down and converted. Buffalo did not go for it on fourth down. They were 6 of 11 on third down efficiency. Total yards, 360 yards for the Buffalo Bills and 276 total yards for Miami. 59 plays for Miami, averaging 4.7 yards per play. Buffalo 6.3 yards per play on 57 plays. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 146 yards, completing 22 of his 34 attempts. Was picked off once, threw 2 touchdown passes, averaging 4.3 yards per pass. Josh Allen throwing for 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks. Miami defense bagged Josh Allen twice, I should say. Josh was 22 of 28 in completion attempts. 3 of those completion attempts were touchdowns to Dalton Kincaid and, of course, Jackson Hawes and Kale Shakir. All right, only 2 sacks given up by Buffalo. For the passing yards, Josh is averaging 6.8 yards per pass. He lost 10 yards on the 2 sacks. Bills defense unable to bag Tua for a sack as they give up no yards. The Dolphins do no yards on sacks. The Dolphins had 130 rushing yards on 25 rushes. Buffalo with 27 rushes, 157 yards rushing, averaging 5.8 yards per rush for Buffalo, 5.2 for Miami per rush. Both teams were excellent in goal-to-go efficiency. Buffalo 2 for 2, Miami 3 for 3. 3 for 3 in the red zone for Miami as well. Buffalo 3 for 4, excuse me. But that's because when they were in the red zone, Matt Prater, as we mentioned, missed a field goal from 30 yards out. Buffalo would have been 4 for 4 if he had made the field goal. 35 yards and 3 penalties given to Buffalo. 57 yards penalized to Miami. They had 6 penalties in this game. 1 turnover, 2 Buffalo fumbles, both aborted, and 1 fumble aborted by Miami. But the turnover was the INT, thrown by Terrell Bernard. 4 touchdowns in total for Buffalo. 3 in the air, 1 on the ground. 1 on the ground, 2 in the air for 3 total touchdowns for Miami. No defense special team touchdowns. Return yards, 174 for Miami, 134 for Buffalo. In 2 punt returns, Miami racked off 20. Miami returned the ball 5 times to eclipse 152 yards returning off of kickoff. Josh Allen did not throw a pick, so no yards in interception for Miami. Tua did throw a pick, only 24 yards for Buffalo through the one interception by Terrell Bernard. They returned the ball 3 times for 95 yards, and no team safetied the other, which also would have led to points, both special teams wise and of course team wise. So no safeties in this game either. All right, there are your game totals. Let's go to now the Bills locker room. Let's go inside the locker room and hear what Coach McDermott had to say along with his crew right after the 31-21 victory over the Dolphins. I gotta tell you though, in listening to this one, Bills Mafia, I was thinking we won the Super Bowl, but it's only week 3. And speaking of the Super Bowl, we gotta keep taking it 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time, and also taking it 1 day at a time. All right, enough from me. Let's hear what the boys in the locker room had to say. Enjoy.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what, man. That's some real mental toughness right there and grit, man. Right? Toe to toe the whole way. Wasn't going our way. You guys stood up. You stood up and made a big time play. TV, great free. A lot of guys I could mention. Hey, coming out to basically close it out. Those specials, Prater, Cam. We got a couple first I'm gonna recognize. We got where's Jackson Hall's first NFL. And then we got Jimbo tied a franchise record for consecutive rushing touchdowns.
All right, you heard the boys after the victory speech, so it's time now on Bills Postgame for a little player of the game programming. But before we do, player of the game, by the way, in our show is called Game Balls of the Game. And before we get down to that, as well as our play of the game, I talked about the Shout text group before we hit the break. So what is the Bills Insider Shout text group? Well, simply put, you get to connect with Matt Perino and Ryan Talbot directly and become a Shout text group insider. All you have to do to join is text to the following number. Click the link in the description of our episode, or if of any Shout Bills Insider text group, which is https://joinsubtext.com/shoutbuffalobills. So if you want to become a Bills Insider, a Bills text insider, to get analysis from Matt and Ryan right to your phone and be able to send text directly to them both, click the link below in our description, https://joinsubtext.com/shoutbuffalobills, or text to 716-528-6727 for your 2-week free trial to begin. It is $3.99 after the 2-week free trial is complete. Once again, the link that will be provided in the description of all our Buffalo content shows, post-game, and our conversations with people around Shout like Ryan Talbot is https://joinsubtext.com/shoutbuffalobills. Become a Bills text insider now. You can also send Matt and Ryan an email, or at least send Matt an email, and they'll work out a way to get you in there to become an insider. All right, time now for the play of the game. What's our play of the game? Last week, it was the Bills' defensive fumble on the Jets. Actually, sorry, it was the James Cook 44-yard touchdown run. The Ravens game was the fumble at the end of the game. For this game, my play of the game comes in the first quarter when Josh Allen put right in Dalton Kincaid's wheelhouse. A nice short left pass for a 20-yard touchdown gain. This also was when Buffalo was down 7-0 early in the first quarter and quickly came up and said, "We're going to answer back quickly." Kincaid's 20-yard touchdown, which tied the game up at 7-7 in the first quarter and led later to, in the scoring summary, a Jackson Hawes 5-yard touchdown from Josh Allen to Jackson Hawes, touchdown that had Buffalo take the lead 4-7. Play of the game for me is 20-yard touchdown from Dalton Kincaid, passed by Josh Allen. Josh Allen with the 20-yard short pass to Dalton Kincaid for a 20-yard touchdown. Time now for the game balls of the game. You can get in on the action on our Discord server or our WhatsApp group. And that, of course, is for anybody who's on Discord and having difficulty accessing it or any issues with Discord accessibility wise. All you got to do, if you check out the chat there, is provide us with your game ball of the game, and we make it fun. So we like to do it on both sides of the ball. Speaking of doing it on both sides of the ball, let's go to via CBS Sports. Let's go to our 3 Miami Dolphins players going to receive the game ball of the game. 3 players from each side are going to receive a game ball of the game. The first is going to go to Achan. Achan was being on the loose. 14 yards his longest run. No touchdown. Average 5.2 yards per run in 12 carries. 62 yards. Von Achan was cooking in this game. Yes, he didn't score a touchdown, but in 12 carries, 62 yards, 5.2 yards average, and 14 yards his longest run, he was quite there. Also, we're going to give a game ball out to Tua Tagovailoa. There were a couple of plays that I thought he did well, and a couple of nice completions by Tua. Yes, he didn't throw for 200, 300, or 400 yards, but he at least got 146 yards. And yes, I know Dolphins fans, I'm not going to mention any Dolphins fan, but I know those fans are going to be looking at me like, Scott, Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat, and you want to give game balls to Miami. Now, whether or not you are thinking that way, that's how I see it. If you're not thinking that way, my apologies by assuming that. Anyways, next up, to join Tua and Devon Achan, another guy who was difficult for the Buffalo Bills to stop, Ollie Gordon, a touchdown, 38 yards in 9 carries, 16 yards his longest run. He also scored the game-opening touchdown on the ground. With that, it's Devon Achan, Tua Tagovailoa, and Ollie Gordon going to the game balls of the game for Miami for the victorious Buffalo Bills. Our first game ball of the game goes to the man with the most yards in this game on the ground. 19 carries, 108 yards, 5.7 yards, 1 touchdown, 26 yards his longest run. That's the longest run for James Cook. As you heard in the victory speech, Bills Mafia, Sean McDermott mentioned that James Cook, Jimbo as we call him, tied a franchise record with the most touchdowns in consecutive games in the NFL. Another guy who was lighting it up from the air, Dalton Kincaid, 66 yards, 1 touchdown, 20 yards his longest catch, 6 targets, 5 receptions. Kale Shakir, 45 yards, a touchdown, 15 yards his longest catch. He caught all 4 of his targets. Our 3 men to get game balls will be Josh Allen, 22 of 28 catches, completions, I should say. James Cook, another big day, 108 yards in 19 carries, 3 touchdowns by Josh in the air, 1 touchdown on the ground. That went to James Cook. Kincaid, Shakir, and Haas with a touchdown in the air. And Elijah Moore, 3 targets, 2 catches, 30 yards. He's really impressing me, despite the fact he doesn't have a touchdown yet. Brandon Codrington and Josh Allen fumble. Buffalo recovered it twice. And remember, the Josh Allen fumble happened at the end of the first half. If that is indeed a live ball, then Miami probably has an opportunity to take the lead on Buffalo before we get to halftime, with Buffalo getting the ball in the second half. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to take another break. When we come back, we'll set up Saints and Bills, as well as Dolphins Jets for next week. Plus, I'll give you my final thoughts on this game, and I'll provide you with my Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football game prediction. That's who I'm taking for the Giant Chief game and who I'm taking for Lamar versus Detroit. And one other thing to note here, it has been revealed that Jaden Daniels of the Commanders will not start for the Commanders against the Raiders on Sunday. Commanders ruled Jaden Daniels for that matchup, so he will not play on Sunday. We wrap up Bills postgame on the other side, setting you up for Saints, Bills, Dolphins, Jets, plus Week 3 Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football predictions, and a look at the league standings, all when Bills postgame continues in just about a few moments. Be sure to stick with me.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners. Bills win 31-21 over the Miami Dolphins. They'll do battle once again after the Buffalo Bills bye week. But before that, Buffalo will continue their home stand. They're on a 3-game home stint, which will include another primetime game before they hit the road before their bye. And of course, they will also take on the New Orleans Saints in a short week, as the Dolphins also are in a short week. They go against the New York Jets starting next week on Monday Night Football. We'll get to Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football for this week in just a little bit. But we're leading off the final segment of our show with what's next for the Bills and their opponent. So the Bills, with 3 weeks in the books for the season, have 3 weeks exactly before they hit their bye. They are off on week 7 of the NFL season, but up next, they will take on the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, September 28th. 25 on Sunday, September 28, 2025. Reminder for baseball fans, that is the day when all baseball games will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So Buffalo will be kicking off against the Saints from Buffalo at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, 10 a.m. I should say, Pacific. Bills back in prime time the following week as they take on the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. To this point, it is their second and final Sunday Night Football game of the season before they go into their only Monday Night Football game of the year as they take on the Atlanta Falcons. So Buffalo is 3-0 going into 3-0 going into their game against the, as we speak, 0-2 New Orleans Saints. That record won't stay the same. We'll know what that record is for New Orleans when we come to you next week on Bills Postgame and break down that game. Patriots are on week number 5. That is October 5th, 2025. October 13th, which is the Canadian Thanksgiving. The Buffalo Bills will be in Atlanta taking on the Falcons on Monday Night Football. Game time is at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. And then it's the bye. And speaking of the bye, that will take us now to who is next for the Miami Dolphins. Their next 4 games include Monday Night Football next week against the Jets at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Then they have a couple of Sunday action games against the Panthers on October 5th. On October 12th, they take on the Chargers. October 19th, they're at the Browns. That is week 7 when the Bills are on the bye. And week 8, they will take on the Falcons in Atlanta. So Buffalo is 3 weeks away from their bye. 4 if you count week 7 as the bye week. They have the Saints, Patriots, and Falcons. The Dolphins bye week will happen following their game, their second showdown against the Bills, and then a showdown with the Commanders. Before they play Buffalo, again, they will play the Jets, Panthers, Chargers, Browns, Falcons, and Ravens. Ravens on Thursday Night Football. Falcons, Browns, Panthers, and Chargers on Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. Eastern, and the Jets at 10 p.m. Eastern next week on Monday Night Football. Following the Bills game, it's an early kickoff for Miami as they take on the Commanders. Note the start time, 9:30 in the morning Eastern time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. All right, so it's the Jets and Miami next week on Monday Night Football. Regular afternoon football for Buffalo and the Saints. Buffalo goes into the game against the Saints 3-0. Miami going into the game on Monday Night Football against the Jets. Will the Jets also be 0-3 come Monday Night Football? We'll see where it stands after Sunday's action. And by come Monday Night Football, I mean come the game Monday Night Football next week. Meanwhile, the Saints are 0-2. Could they be 0-3? Going into the game against Buffalo, just like the Jets? We'll know by the end of the Sunday action, and we'll also know going into those games where the records stand before the game begins next week. All right, folks, I promised you a Monday Night Football and a Sunday Night Football prediction, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. So, folks, I personally don't see the Giants beating the Chiefs. So I'm going to do the Chiefs in a close one. It might be a nail biter for both squads because both squads are 0-2 on the season. So I feel this is going to be a shootout. And I honestly feel like it's going to come down to either a game-winning field goal or a game-winning touchdown drive. Whatever the case is, give me the Chiefs 28-21, Chiefs by 7, beating the Giants 20-21. Lions and Rams, I like the Lions at 34-14. That's a 20-point game. So give me the Lions on Monday Night Football against Jackson and Henry of the Ravens. But I also have a shootout there I also believe it could be a shootout with the G-Men and the Chiefs. That's why I said I'm going to go Chiefs 28-21, which is a 7-point game. Chiefs are going to win that game. Lions, I think they have a shot against Lamar, but that's why I'm going to go 34-14. I'll even come down to 34-21 to get a little bit closer. All right, folks, that'll do it for this episode of Bills Postgame. That'll do it for our coverage of Dolphins and Bills until after the Buffalo Bills bye week and before the Miami Dolphins bye week. Our next coverage will be Buffalo versus New Orleans from Highmark Stadium in Buffalo, New York. Next game on before they kick off will be Bills Patriots from Highmark Stadium as the Bills wrap up a 3-game homestand with 2 primetime games. One yesterday night, one last night on Thursday night, and one a Sunday from next Sunday. All right, my name is Scott McGregor. Please call me Scott. Bills win it 31-21. Thank you as always for tuning in to Bills Postgame. Dolphins Postgame on Sports for Beginners is coming up next. And of course, for our On the Ice and Behind the Benches listeners tuning in from Dolphins Postgame, hope you enjoyed what Thomas has provided for you. If you're tuning in on Sports for Beginners, you'll hear exactly what he had to say on the Ice and Behind the Benches coming up next. For Bills Mafia, the Bills are 3-0 with the bye week 3 weeks away. First, it's the Saints, then the Patriots, and then the Falcons. 2 of those games in prime time. Patriots and Falcons games are in prime time. Saints game is an afternoon game, but we will be back with Bills post game following that game. Until then, enjoy this Victory Friday. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, play shout, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.